sensational, what appears to be a murder plot against President Donald J. Trump. That's right. At the White House Correspondents Dinner in Washington, Hilton, you had a gunman open fire. He managed to only injure someone outside on the screening area, and it was a Secret Service agent who was also wearing a bullet vest, so he was not injured. The silver lining is that the entire cabinet, the president, the vice president, the first lady, the entire cabinet, all the correspondents, all of them are safe. They were evacuated immediately. The president himself has held a press conference since then. But all of this happened at the Washington Hilton, and which is why we are going to tell you how this seems to be a chilling deja vu moment at Washington. After all, the Hilton haunting had happened 45 years back. In fact, we're going to take you back to March 1991. This was the assassination bid on the life of the then president, Ronald Reagan. You can see the president there on the ground. What had happened? It was a similar White House Correspondents Dinner. It was in 1981. The speech had happened. The president had then stepped out. He was about to get into his limousine when there were shots which were fired. Luckily, at the time, there was no direct shot which entered, or no bullet which entered the then president. However, one of the bullets had ricocheted off the limousine and entered the chest of the president. In fact, Ronald Reagan was immediately rushed to the hospital. We'll get you a glimpse of him sitting in a seat, in a wheelchair as he was wheeled out. He managed to recover quickly from there. However, it was a deep wound that he had sustained at the time. And just to remind you, after this, the man who had shot at the president in 1981, Ronald Reagan, was deemed to be unfit of mind, and hence he was released. He was not jailed. And now, 45 years later, you have an assassination bid again on President Trump this time around. 45 years later, you have the Hilton haunting, which strikes again. And both the times, both the presidents were lucky. There were no injuries in this year's shooting as well. However, many are saying that if there are repeated security alerts which have been raised, why does the Washington Correspondents Dinner, one of the most high-profile dinners which is hosted by the White House, is held in 1981? These are the questions which are now being raised about safety and how the man, Cole Allen, the shooter in this case, a 31-year-old, managed to enter the Hilton in the first place, get as close to the screening area as he did. And of course, there would have been a door between them and the ballroom. He didn't really enter the ballroom where the president and the White House correspondents were all there. However, how did that man manage to get so close to the president? Well, these are questions which perhaps Kash Patel will have to answer. Meanwhile, this is what the president had said.
President Trump, there's a report in the New York Post that this assailant assembled his weapon somewhere on site at the hotel. What do you think about that? And I ask respectfully, why do you think this keeps happening to you?
Well, you know, I've studied assassinations, and I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most, you take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln, I mean, you go through the people that have gone through this where they got them. But the people that do the most, the people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after. They don't go after the ones that don't do much because they like it that way. And when you look at the people that have either, whether it was an attempt or a successful attempt, they're very impactful people. Just take a look at the names here, the big names. And I hate to say I'm honored by that, but I've done a lot. We've done a lot. We've taken this country, and we were a laughingstock for years, and now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We've changed this country, and there are a lot of people that are not happy about that. So I think that's the answer, Peter.
And after
In fact, you can see the visuals there on your screens right now. We are going to tell you about the possible security lapses which have happened. Now, remember, the Hilton Hotel remains open to regular guests during the events. It also is security, which is these kind of security lapses that we've seen. However, remember, one of the questions which was put to President Trump, why is it that again and again there are assassination bids on your life? Well, he said it's because he's a man of impact, even compared himself to Abe Lincoln. In fact, these are the three bids that we are showing for you. One is that in July 2024, this was an interesting one because this was right ahead of his presidential bid. There was a bullet which had zipped past very, very close to the president's ear. In fact, you'd see a few drops also coming out of blood, which fell onto his suit right after that. A bullet had zipped past his ear. Thankfully, he survived by a whisker. Then there was another bid in September 2024, which is in Florida, where an AK-47 was recovered from the shooter. This was near where you had President Trump's Mar-a-Lago. However, the shooter was nowhere, at least in this case, nowhere physically close to the president. Now, this is the third attempt which has happened on the president's life. In fact, this, you can see, is what had unraveled at the Washington Hilton. You can see the visuals of the Secret Service there whisking the president and Melania Trump, the First Lady, away from the stage where they were sitting. Now, remember, we're going to explain that entire minute-by-minute sequence as well as to what really led up to the moments when the shooting had started happening. But in this case as well, the shooter was physically not in the same room, the ballroom, where you had the president and all the guests who were there. Remember, there were somewhere between 2,000 to 2,500 reporters who were there in this room, top editors who were there. Of course, you had President Trump, Melania, as well as several other cabinet leaders, ministers who were all part of this dais, where you can see swift evacuation order. But on your screens, you can see how there were three different murder bits which had happened on the president's life. He was asked very specifically, is this linked to Iran? And he said, I don't think so. Was this anything to do with Iran? Well, we don't know yet. We don't have the details yet, but we are going to be tracking the developments very closely because this is coming in at a time when there has been a historic low in the approval rating of President Trump in his second term. Meanwhile, here's a report which is coming in. Listen in. Thomas Allen. This is the man that you can see face down as he was taken down by the Secret Service agents. He's 31-year-old male. He is from California, is what we do know about him. He has been taken in custody. He's been detained at the Washington Hilton right after he fired the shots which injured one Secret Service agent. However, there was a bulletproof vest that he was wearing, which is why it's not a fatal injury. He is being treated for his injury. This man breached the magnetometer screening point. How did that happen? We'll have to wait and see if there are any answers coming in. The shots were reported from the ballroom entrance as well. There was a screening area right before you could enter the ballroom where the screenings were happening. That's where that man, and we got you that CCTV footage as well, of the man streaking past all the security forces, and then he fired shots. He was then taken down. He opened fire at the Secret Service agents who were there in the screening area. Reports say that a Secret Service agent has been injured, something that even President Trump has alluded to, saying that he is safe. He is now being treated for his injuries. About 5 to 8 rounds were reportedly fired by this man, Cole Allen. As per the witnesses, we are waiting for more details, more exact details of whom he was shooting at. The shooter has been injured. He was taken into custody, but he's alive. And it's important for us to point out this man is alive. President Trump came out and he said that this man is deranged. He is a whack job, saying that he's sick in the mind. Cole Allen, who was taken down by the Secret Service agents, you can see him being stripped there, put on the ground face down. And after this, because he was injured, it is believed that he's been taken to a hospital. But with that, we have more breaking news which is coming in. You have the Washington's mayor who's confirmed that this was a lone gunman, that the suspect rushed the Secret Service checkpoint. He rushed past that the agents had neutralized the threat at the hotel lobby, and one of the Secret Service agents was injured and he was shifted to the hospital. It is also a confirmation coming in from the mayor that the shooter has been now taken to the hospital. He has been taken for a mental evaluation as well. This is the shooter there on your screens. This is the first picture that we are getting of the shooter on your screens. This is Cole Allen. The mayor has put out this picture of this man who's the suspected shooter, saying that he's now been hospitalized for evaluation as well. There are protocols which are going to be taking place in this case as well. Psych evaluations, for example. What was the reason behind his shooting? Who is this man? How did he enter? Was he one of the regular guests who was there at the Washington Hilton? How did he manage to go in there? He seems to be someone, he's wearing a graduation gown that you can see, class of 2025. He appears to be someone who is a graduate. We are waiting for more details for him to come out. What we do know is that President Trump has said that this man is deranged, he's a whack job, he's sick in the head, that he is going to be kept in a prison for the rest of his life, because if Cole Allen leaves, he may be a danger to other people as well. But the question is, was Trump his target? And if yes, then why? The shooter, the details coming in is that the shooter had donated for Kamala Harris's election campaign as well. He's a teacher from California, is what we are picking up. That he had once donated to Kamala Harris for president. That campaign, that means
at that time, a sole gunman brushed a Secret Service checkpoint in a lobby at the hotel. Secret Service agents stopped the suspect. An agent was injured and transported to a local hospital where the agent is receiving care. The suspect is also transported to a local hospital where he is being evaluated. The president returned safely to the White House, as you know. We are so very thankful to members of law enforcement who did their jobs tonight and made sure that all guests were safe. We have no reason to believe at this time that anyone else was involved.
well, in fact, this is the shooter. That is the picture that we are putting out. He's a teacher, is what we are picking up, is what the mayor has confirmed. He donated to Kamala Harris's presidential campaign as well. So it would be safe to say he may be a Democrat voter. More details of the shooter now emerging. In this picture that you can see, where this man allegedly fired at the Washington Hilton when the president was inside the ballroom holding the White House Correspondents' Dinner. This is the man, a 31-year-old. We can now confirm for you that he's a teacher. We can now confirm for you that he's from California. Also, amongst the details which are now emerging is that he had perhaps even donated for Kamala Harris's presidential campaign bid. So it may be safe to say that he's a Democrat supporter. But what were his reasons? What were the reasons for Cole to actually shoot at this dinner? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Remember, India's already put out a statement. You have Prime Minister Modi saying that India will never accept violence. Violence is an antithesis to democracy, that it can never be a solution in a case such as this. Now details are coming in as to who this man is. This is Cole Allen. He's 31-year-old, appears to be a teacher. He could have graduated as well. You can see in one of the pictures there, he's wearing a graduation gown. He's a teacher. He would be dealing with children every day. What were his reasons? Is he of sane mind? These are the questions which are now being asked. What we do know so far is that he is injured. There may be a bullet injury that he sustained as per some reports. It is being believed that he has been taken down and he has been taken to a hospital. His mental evaluation is also going to be held very shortly. Well, these are the three visuals that you can see of Cole Allen. This is Cole Allen. He is the person from California, a teacher by profession. Why did he go to the Washington Hilton armed with a shotgun, as per reports? As per reports, he was also carrying knives, multiple knives. How did he manage to get so close to where President Trump, Melania Trump, and half of the secretaries were on the dais? How did he manage to get there? How did he overcome the security? This, the first picture which came in of Cole Allen being taken down. You can see him face down on the floor. This is the screening area. Remember, he never managed to go to the ballroom where you had the president. He was intercepted right to all the security agents and then firing. It is being believed from 5 to 8, somewhere around that line, he had fired at the security agents. One of the security agents got hit, but that too in the bulletproof vest, which is why he was not hurt. But this is Cole Allen. When he was taken down, you can see that he's got a blanket on top of him and he appears to have been strip searched. They have, as per reports, recovered multiple knives from him, a shotgun, and as per one of the reports, there were 2 guns on him. We cannot confirm that right now, but there were reports saying that there was a regular gun, a smaller one, as well as a shotgun. If that is the case, how did he manage to do that? Questions are going to be asked. Now, you can see a picture of the moment when Cole was taken down, and he is currently been taken to a hospital. This is a third video that you can see of the shooter. This is Cole Allen. You'll see him in a bit there, coming out, streaking past what appears to be a crowded screening room. There are at least 10 to 15 security service agents that you can see on your screens, at whom he seems to have shot at. In fact, let's get you some of the reactions which have been coming in. President Trump himself reacted to the shooting incident. He says that he does not rule out any angle of Iran. Remember, he was asked pointedly, is it linked to Iran? He said, well, it's not really linked to Iran, but we can't take out any possible angle even as the probe continues. I think the shooter was a lone wolf. Listen in.
Well, all you can do, look, I don't care how many people you have, how good they are. They can be the greatest people. You have the greatest security in history. If you have a whack job who's got a brain, but it's a little bit distorted or a lot distorted, they can make trouble. I would say, Pete, right? You know, they can make trouble. Some of these people are of genius level IQ, and they're nuts, so it can be trouble. So you do absolutely the best. You get the best. We have the best people. Well, look, it was proven tonight. He started running from 50 yards, and he was fast. He was like a blur on tape. He was moving. They turned. It was very impressive the way they got him, because a lot of people would be looking and saying, you know, it's like a weird feeling, and they would let him get through, but they didn't let him get through. They drew those guns so fast. They looked like Matt Dillon. They looked like somebody that knew what they were doing, and we really do. But it comes with the territory. And if you want to do a great job, I really believe that. And you take a look at what's happened to some of our greatest presidents, and it doesn't happen to people that don't do anything. And it's not going to deter me from winning the war in Iran. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I really don't think so, based on what we know. But we're going to continue to do a great job. That's all I can do.
Let me go across to Srinjoy Chaudhary. Srinjoy, the shooter carried many weapons. He may have been a lone wolf. However, interestingly, the president does not rule out an Iran angle. He was asked directly if this is linked to the war at a time when, remember, his approval rating is at an all-time low. This is very interesting if it is something to do with the war which is underway.
The investigation has just begun. So after he's interrogated, we'll actually find out the reason why he was where he was. Think about various things. He's a Californian who's traveled all the way to Washington. He knows that this function is going to happen on this particular day at this particular hotel. How many teachers in California at this point knew that this function was going to take place? 3, he was carrying a shotgun. Now, when you're going to shoot someone inside in a hotel, would you rather carry a shotgun or would you carry a revolver? 4, he was carrying lots and lots of knives. The question that comes up immediately is, how did he get through every security? Well, one partial answer to that is that he was staying in a hotel, in the hotel is what the reports say. Now, if he's been staying in the hotel, he obviously had to get his luggage through when he checked in. That again becomes a question mark. How long was he staying in the hotel? And why was he there in Washington anyway? Was it just for this, or was it for anything else? So there are more questions than answers at this point. But you're right, he at least would have supported a Democrat candidate, in this case Kamala Harris, having contributed to her campaign. But beyond that, we don't know anything about him except that he's a teacher. So all these questions, why was he in Washington? Was he only for this? How did he know that this correspondents' dinner was going to happen? And where it was going to happen, at what time it was going to happen? How many teachers in California have a full idea of all of this? And
Absolutely.
finally,
And how many teachers know how to shoot, who apparently own a handgun and knives, would carry that into a White House dinner which was being hosted at the Hilton? These are questions which are, of course, going to be asked. But let's explain to you all, in case you have not been following the news, let's explain to you the entire sequence of events at the White House dinner, where there was shooting and a possible attempt on the President Trump's life. In fact, the event kicks off. The dinner was scheduled for around 8 p.m. EST, that is US Standard Time. That is when you have around 2,600 attendees present. This is the rough amount of attendees who were present. These were all essentially journalists, White House correspondents, editors, along with most of the cabinet members. Of course, you had President Trump, you had Melania, and several other dignitaries who were present at this event. Donald Trump arrives with the First Lady Melania Trump, and then the event begins. Top officials were there, media and celebrities were in attendance. In fact, in that moment, you had one of the mentalists also who was hosting the show, as gunshots suddenly were heard. This happened around 8:30 and 8:40 p.m. This is what we do know. At around this time at the White House dinner, gunshots were heard. And this is the moment right after the gunshots were heard where the Secret Servants quickly swept the entire dais. They made the President and the First Lady duck, and then they rushed to cover. They were escorted out quickly. There were reports of about 5 to 8 shots which were being fired. Now we know that these shots were being fired outside the ballroom, not inside the ballroom. The firing had happened near the magnetometer and the security screening area right ahead of the ballroom. That ballroom, remember, is subterranean. It is underground. It is not even on the ground level. So the shooter would have gone down and streaked past the security agents to have actually arrived at this screening area. The assailant then he started ducking under the table. The Secret Service stormed in, and all the people who were attending it started ducking under the tables to try and take cover. You had the security forces then take down the shooter, whom we now can confirm is Cole Allen, a 31-year-old teacher from California. What it appears is that he may be a Kamala Harris supporter, a Democrat supporter. However, what we do not know right now is what was the reason, the motive behind this shooting. And was President Trump on the target of Cole Allen? These are all the unanswered questions that we are going to hopefully get some more answers, more clarity on. But for the timing, a short break. Don't go anywhere. We return in 2 minutes.
Top of the world with